Dear friends, welcome to Cardiac Radio, where we are here to nourish our souls. I'm Norberta, the host of this lovely program, Pages of Hope, right? We're here to get nourishment for our souls, to get some inspiration. And as we are looking through a lot of these beautiful, beautiful Spiritist poems in the Spiritist Magazine, we can't help but to get inspired. So today we're going to read a really very sweet poem full of love from a son to his parents, right? Called Love is Us. This is from the book Poems of Love by Ricardo Petrillo. And of course, through his parents, right? They were mediums, Claudio Petrillo and Silvia Petrillo. I think I'm saying her name correctly, right? And this poem is found in the Spiritist Magazine Edition 10, page 42. And this is the way that the poem looks, and this is the way that the cover looks. Before we get to the poem, we are going to watch a little background on, more than anything, Ricardo, get his thoughts, because this poem makes a little bit more sense as best as we can, right, when we read. But I have something here, dear friends. I have two glasses, right? As I'm pouring, right, I'm seeing how I'm letting all the water flow, right? So that's what the poem is about, letting our love flow. All right, dear friends. So let's watch the background, and then we'll come back to read the poem. The following video clip includes excerpts, quotations, and information from the family's website, eternalbondsoflove.com, the biographies and his books, Poems of Love and Eternal Bonds of Love. Ricardo Petrillo is a true example of love. Love for God, himself, parents, family, education, and Spiritism. As stated in his biography, he was born in 1985. At the time of his passing in 2005, he was a sophomore at Quinnipiac University in Connecticut and member of the Tau Kappa Epsilon fraternity. His favorite things include music, singing, acting, sports, cooking, and politics. Ricardo now writes through his parents, doctors and mediums Claudio and Silvia Petrillo, who have served the community as medical doctors for over 20 years in Connecticut. Together, they have written several books to continue sharing the spirit of charity, love, and hope, with a strong message that family ties continue and there is life thereafter. To get a better glimpse of Ricardo, Book 1, Eternal Bonds of Love, portray his humble, caring, and witty character through his experiences. After his accident that took his life, Ricardo enters the spiritual realm. While he is shy to share a detailed account of all his experiences, he tells enough to give a message of courage in his own way. The messages didn't download all at once, though. It was a process. Ricardo attended spiritual school in order to prepare and send the messages through a translator to his parents on Earth. They started to communicate via thoughts. Claudio would sit down every night for about 6 months and for about 30 minutes each day, concentrating until the messages came through. As for Silvia, she shared some profound thoughts about her son. She writes how they were close as a family, participating in many activities. Although Spiritism activities declined, the older Ricardo got due to more responsibilities. One of the most beautiful acts of kindness Ricardo, as a 7-year-old, did was to convince his parents to adopt his cousins who lost their mom to cancer. The following excerpt is Silvia's own words. It is said that a parent's worst nightmare is to lose a child. I guess every parent agrees with that, but no one can ever be prepared for it. It never crossed my mind that Ricardo could die before me. My worst nightmare became a reality. Claudio, a very loving and dedicated father, also wrote some emotional thoughts in his preface. It was on our last trip to Rio de Janeiro to celebrate your grandparents' 50th anniversary that I was able to know you, my son, as a young man. How much I miss the never-ending days that we spent on the beach, dreaming, playing, and hanging out at the kiosk of Sauce, talking about everything. That day in September was to become the worst day of my life. I was numb, unable to react. It seemed unreal. For quite some time I was just barely able to survive, as the constant pain of thorns ripping apart my heart did not seem to abate. Ricardo's transition is a life document of not only life afterwards, but how we also keep our personalities and all within us. He tells us how after discovering he was no longer on earth, he received the inspiration about writing books to change lives down here. Waking up in a hospital, he shares the peace and beauty of the place. Still feeling the headaches that are linked to his accident, he realizes giving to others was the most effective pain reliever that I had for my sporadic headaches. The books they have written include, from books 1 to 9, Eternal Bonds of Love, Poems for a Better World, Poems of Love, Eternal Romeo, Planet Janus, Journey of Light, Lessons from a Past Life, Don Quixote Goes to Washington, A Tale of a New World Order, Two Worlds Intertwined, A Spiritual Novel, and A Journey of the Soul. In his third book, Poems of Love, Ricardo inspires us with poems dedicated to the subject of love. Love, talked and written about in excess through all ages and epochs, present in all forms of entertainment, sold as dreams, trivialized by the never-ending means to find it quickly, easily, and cheaply. Ricardo in his book brings us the true meaning of love in all its purest forms between humans and their colorful relationships, the internal sentiment that remains despite the apparent separation between beings at different levels of vibrations, at different existential realms, in flesh and in spirit. It is in this book that the poem Love is Us is beautifully written. I humbly say we don't claim this book literary, but a work of love between parents and their son. Despite their humble claims, this third book is rich with messages of love in various ways, through many types of relationships and with elevated intentions. In this book, Ricardo attempts to expand and share the love he learned with his parents and with others. A kind of love that sensitizes us to each other's needs, that makes us better persons, that heals the body and the soul, fulfills our need for meaning in our lives, and teaches us to be giving above all. As we're about to read the poem, Love is Us, let's listen to the first message Ricardo sent to his parents. This message of love will only inspire us to continue with that vibration. Yes, Dad, it's me. I'm talking to you through somebody else since I cannot yet communicate with you directly. I don't know the translator, but he's nice. You all know how much I love you and miss you, but I think I'm doing okay here. I was very weak for a while and kind of a zombie, but with time I got stronger, ate well all my veggies. I am light and feel open to the whole universe. I still don't like to talk about what happened, and little by little I'm beginning to see why it happened. Mom knows when I'm around. My love is for you and Mom. I am working in a kind of hospital. I read, laugh, cry, and also pray like you do. Well, I have to go now. I love you. Ricardo. All right, dear friends. So beautiful, powerful, right? It's just a bunch of love there. There's a lot of love flowing. All this love with this family. We want to thank the family for sharing the story with us, because we learn so much. And thank you. It's a big heart of gratitude for allowing us to look at their story. And before we read the poem, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the main themes of the poem, because a lot of us have probably already read the poem, right? And the poem is really talking about love. And so throughout the poem, there are several events happening that could be observed, right? Remembered and felt. It is like going through someone's memory from childhood towards a new life. And of course, now we know it's Ricardo. It's like his life now from a spiritual realm. So as we listen to the poem at the end of this, friends, it's almost like he was going back, giving us that memory from like childhood to now in the spiritual realm, as it starts off talking about this idea of like a fire, right? Almost like when someone's out in the campfire, like a child, and then, you know, time's the blink of an eye. And so that means that time passes, and all of a sudden we get this very different Ricardo giving us these beautiful, precious lessons of love, right? And that's almost like he has a new awareness and a new perspective. And towards the then we're gonna talk about blessed are the pure of heart from the Spiritist book, because I mean the gospel according to Spiritism, because really there's so much comparison that we can do with the poem and those beautiful words of wisdom, right? So let's continue. Now I'm gonna get a little bit technical here with poetry, because it's just a really good way to see this, right? Even though they say as a disclaimer that it's not a very complex literary wise, I actually think otherwise. There's a lot, and dear friends, I had to cut off huge chunks of conversations due to time, but I invite you to read the poem because you will also feel that inspiration. One of the things that we notice with the poem is that it starts with personification, right? Meaning that a lot of these concepts are turned into like a person, right? The calm approaches, peace reigns, thoughts race, heart remain, love flow, scent of jasmine invite, love impregnates, right? All these things, something that's living can do it, but you know, these concepts, these abstract ideas of peace and love and so forth, we can't exactly do that, right? So we can think of it as two ways. One, think of us when we're children, we have this impression of the world and we love it and look at it so differently, right? And item number two that we can think about that perhaps Ricardo sharing is also giving these abstract ideas the concept of the importance, right? That they're alive, that not just a theory, they're not just there, right? That there's life to these elements in a different way that we perhaps we understand. And then, dear friends, he goes from personification to lots of little metaphors in there, right? And I just picked a couple. Life is a blink of an eye. Let love flow through you. Open up and let love be you. Give yourself up for a moment. Step away from your own mind. Be a conduit of love. So all of these are almost like such a switch, right? From that young Ricardo to I can perceive the world slightly differently. There's something about time here, right? Time has changed. Things are different. All of a sudden, it's not about all of these experiences, but love. That love needs to flow. Love, I need to open up. I need to give myself up, right? We know his story. We know what happens to him. So you can imagine, you know, being in that place. And if you read the book, their first book, right? You get a glimpse of how he had this entire awakening in that process, which he so openly shares with us. And then the poem ends about loving others, starting within, right? So it's like this new thing. It's almost like 3 stages that he shares with us in this lovely poem, right? And think about his attitude. These are feelings that are very elevated, very compassionate and loving, right? When he uses be a conduit of love. Give ourselves up. That's a very loving and compassionate way to see love. Very, very reflective, right? Love flowing can take different directions, meaning thoughts, feelings, expressions, and reactions, the way he sees love, right? So when we did our experiment, as we are flowing, right? It wasn't something like, oh, keep it half, or no, this is for me, or no, it's let it go, right? Let it flow. Let it flow. It's almost like, let's do this. And all of this attitude was seen through. That's the elevated component of it. And then, of course, when we really think about this, let's think about this. What is his message? And I'm going to read this, friends, because it helps me stay focused. But it says here, love is not about others completing us, but it's us, right? Others' love for us, it's a gift. It's like a plus. So in this poem, there was no giving of extra things. It was about memories, traditional love symbols transcribed into spiritual meanings, giving of ourselves to others, encouraging others, praying for others. Love being in us connects us. Love is about growing, right? It's about making mistakes, coming back, letting it flow. Let's do this. So it's a very reparative poem, very true of who he was, dear friends, right? Because he really went through a huge experience, and he constantly said, you know, I feel like it's the same thing. I'm over here in the spiritual realm. It's very similar. All these impressions and experiences that he had. It goes to show we're continuing to grow. And I love how he really put that in his poetry. So now let's think about this in Spiritism, right? Like, you know, the teachings are so huge and so progressive and in the time. And we have this idea, right, that we started with childhood and kind of having that growth. Remember that part in the Gospel according to Spiritism, let the children come to me, right? And it says here, Jesus uses childhood as a symbol of purity, right? A symbol of humility. And then the Spirit wears the tunic of innocence for a while, and then it changes, right? Then we have that transformation, and isn't that what's happening too? And it's kind of like where he was heading, where he went through his childhood, experienced all those things, and then at a very young age, he disincarnates, and he's still finding himself. So we're getting that through this poem, because that is the love. And then in the same section of the Gospel according to Spiritism, John the Evangelist says, Jesus was the flame that shone in darkness, the morning light that awakens the dawn. A vigorous process has begun. It is no longer a question of believing instinctively and obeying mechanically. It is necessary for humans to follow the intelligent law that reveals its universality, right? This is love, dear friends. And as we're growing, God is loving us, and he's our torch. He's our light. He's that that connection, right? And of things flowing. Without him, sheer it, how we connect to God, right? We can't do this. We need, he is that which helps us, right? So we're no longer just obeying things now. We're following intelligent law. Our free will, right, expands. We're using it differently. And that's like how Ricardo was telling us in the poem, right? Come on, dear friends. Let's think about love. No longer, it's not about giving. It's not about all these misconceptions, right? But it's about letting it flow, going with it, sharing. And then the last part here says here in the same section of the Gospel according to Spiritism, let they come to me, so that I may enlighten them. I forgot. There's a typo, dear friends. Sorry. So it's let them come to me so that I may enlighten them. If you possess this divine fire, what will you fear? Right? So this is us, dear friends, letting the love flow. Not being scared to let love be in us. Not stopping it, but believing it and trusting it. For it says here, if you have love, you have everything there is to be desired on earth. You possess the most excellent pearl. You will feel the weight of matter grow lighter day by day, and like a bird soaring in the sky. This is Protector Spirit in Bordeaux in 1861. And that's exactly, we get this feel in the poem, right? This sense of freedom, this sense of connection, and it's not about all of these things. And we're gonna go ahead and let's go through this, because as we read the poem, now let's make these connections. We're listening to it, right? In his book, The Eternal Bonds of Love, he has several chapters that are about love, but I think these 3 points really is a great way to introduce us now into the poem. It says, differences of vibratory level do not change our commitments and our love. We are able to expand our love to many others while diminishing our love, without diminishing our love for each other. So let's not be afraid to love, right? Let's not, there's always enough. when we let flow, when we look at the right, at the property of water, there's no shape. It's endless unless we give it shape. So we cannot be let's not be afraid. It's endless, right? Love has created so many misconceptions. Love is not passion. And I think a lot of us are, we understand this. I just need to put it more in practice, right? I'm the first one there in line, dear friends, right? And this is such a personal line, because each of us experience love differently. So whatever comes to our heart, how we transform the passions to this Christ conscious love, we do that. And everybody's at a different level, right? We're different levels. So we trust it. We trust our inner voice, right? Because we know that, as he says, love is within. And then he ends this, which is just absolutely beautiful to hear this. Love is beautiful and calm, full of reflection and certainty. It cannot ever be lost. It may pervade you like a slow fire, taking charge by elevating you with warmth and compassion. The love that grows in you with each act of kindness and charity is rewarding and unselfish. It's sublime in its nature and transcends all other feelings. I'm trying to describe to you what I feel now, knowing that you're continuously inquiring about the true nature of love. So that's it, dear friends. In this poem, that's exactly what he's doing. He's showing different, stages of himself, different levels of understandings, and he's just being very honest with us, and that's beautiful. And thank you so much, Ricardo and the family, for sharing those beautiful messages and seeing love differently, trusting it. It starts within. Let's let it flow. Let's do not worry about anything else, and seeing what does love stand for me, right? So now let's listen to the poem. Let's let the music and everything kind of help us to do this. And all right, let me change the screen. Love is Us by Ricardo Petrillo. The calm of the evening approaches. Peace begins to reign in all hearts. Thoughts are raised high as hearts remain pure. The crackling of the firewood reminds us of our frailty and the warmth of the fire, the transient nature of things. Life is a blink of an eye, time and space irrelevant. Let love flow through you. The music suggests that we remove any lingering thoughts and ideas, whereas the scent of jasmine invites us to meditate. All around, not seen but perceived, many beings participate in the scene, and as you let love flow through you, it impregnates the room and all. Let love flow through you. Open up and let love be you in these moments of giving, in these moments of forgiveness. Give yourself up for a moment. Step away from your mind and watch. Observe all that gather around a new reality, the true reality, and let love flow through you. Be a conduit of love while watching the turmoil of people, but contemplating their turn, their own realization. I pray that the strength continues. I pray it would expand. And by giving yourselves up, you gain ever more the wisdom and serenity of knowing that we are love. Well, friends, beautiful, beautiful. And let's remember, let's be like children of God, allowing the love to flow, right? Practicing that beautiful, those beautiful affirmations that, Dr. Anceloni and so many other hosts here. And it's a universal thing. Let's say those affirmations. Let's share love. Let's be love. Let love flow, right? And as we're going to end this beautiful study today, and thank you, spirits, for everything, I want to say, some of you might say, but you poured all the water over here. With Jesus, dear friends, we can always refill our cup, right? Okay, dear friends, so let's let our love flow. I will see you next week on Thursday, God willing. Blessings. Let's not forget to tune in to other beautiful programs here at Cardiac Radio, where we're here to nourish ourselves. Until next time, God bless.